let's get to free agency grades. We'll start with the NFC North. A lot of change, some big moves for these various teams. We can bring up the list. Harry's got them. Harry did a fantastic job with the graphics here. You can see additions for the Lions: DJ Reader, Emmett Robertson, Marcus Davenport. They re-signed Graham Glasgow and Emmanuel Mosley. Packers bring in Xavier McKinney, Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs. Lose Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, and David Bakhtiari. Those are big old-time Packers guys. Also had Keeson Nixon and Tyler Davis. And then, of course, Aaron Jones to the Vikings. They lose Kirk Cousins, as we all know about, and Daniil Hunter. Keenan Allen acquired by the Bears, along with Kevin Byard. They trade Justin Fields and re-signed Jalen Johnson. What kind of grades would you hand out? We'll start with the Lions. What kind of grade would you give the Lions, Breach?
I'm going to give them an A-. I thought they did pretty good. You look at corner being a biggest need, going out and trading for Carlton Davis, I thought was impressive. They're re-signing offensive linemen, which I think is smart. Graham Glasgow, Dan Skipper. And they didn't hit any home runs, but I thought they were consistent enough that they plugged the holes they need to plug. I mentioned Carlton Davis on defense, but they also added, you got a run stuffer and DJ Reader. You got some pass rush help and Marcus Davenport. So again, nothing blew me away, but it just felt like a consistently good week for the Lions. So A-.
Yeah, I'm in that same range. I gave him a B+ here just because, Breach, they don't need to hit the home runs because, this is a team that's already kind of ready-made. They have their core. I do trust them in the NFL draft almost exclusively just because of what they were able to do these last few years. So there's going to be more talent coming. But from a free agent standpoint, we mentioned it last week. I do love Carlton Davis. That's a clear need, fix the secondary. But DJ Reader coming in too to almost further strengthen their run defense, which was one of the best last year. You look at what these other teams in this division have done, adding Aaron Jones in Minnesota, DeAndre Swift going to Chicago, obviously Green Bay getting Josh Jacobs. They're telling you that they're going to run the ball. And so to further solidify that as one of your key strengths, I think is going to be very important in this division.
Well, yeah, and now too, like Kirk Cousins gone, as we noted. I mean, you're going to be a rookie. Jordan Love, who is in his second year as a starter, and everybody's very high on. But I mean, at the same time, a guy who middle last year, the GM was being asked if they were going to if he was the guy to build around. And then, in Minnesota, we just don't know what we're going to have. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a run-heavy division, to your point, Sully. I'm right there with you. I think B+ it's sort of a stand-up double type of free agency, right? Where, to use a baseball analogy, when we're talking about the football offseason, where they didn't need to swing for the fences. They needed to make sure they got better in certain areas and keep improving that defense. Because, you bring back Ben Johnson. That's the other part of this, too. You don't lose either of your coordinators. And I realize that's not free agency, but you can kind of put that in the totality of the offseason where, you go and have a good draft and you keep identifying good talent. They had so much good talent in the rookie class last year. This is a team that really can keep building on what was a special season, nearly a very special season last year. All right. Also, the Packers, Green Bay Packers check in. As we mentioned, McKinney, I'm going to give the Packers an A-. I like that they were really aggressive. A for aggressive. They go out there, Sully, and they make, you see Brian Gutekunst doesn't stand on his laurels, wants to build on what they have. They know that they find out that Cousins is gone out of the division too. And you really have to think, yes, maybe the Bears could turn things around a little bit more, but this feels a little bit like a two-horse race. And if you're Green Bay, you want to be aggressive. You know that you're losing some of your older stars in Jones. Dillon was a whiff in the draft, and then Bakhtiari, who's been protecting the blind side forever. But they went out and got really aggressive, and I think the Josh Jacobs fit is a fun one here.
Yeah, I think Josh Jacobs is really going to be fun. I like Xavier McKinney as well. I mean, this is a team that was taking the San Francisco 49ers to the brink in the postseason. I mean, they peaked very early in the Jordan Love era, as early as we all could have possibly even conceived. We thought that this was going to be kind of a multi-year rebuild. Let's see if he's the guy, and they just caught fire down the stretch. So I like them adding some talent around him, defensively and certainly offensively. I think Jacobs is going to be a fascinating piece. I mean, Breach, we talked about it early last week, that the fact that they were so aggressive in trying to in going after Josh Jacobs means that LaFleur has a plan for him in his offense, which I just think is going to be fascinating to watch unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. I give the Packers a B+. I think the interesting, though, or maybe I don't even know if interesting is the right word, but the amount of money they gave Josh Jacobs, I think he's going to walk away with that about $14 million, a little over $14 million in year one. And, it's a 12-year or 40-year, $48 million deal, but it seems unlikely that he plays out all 4 years. And so it's just a hefty paycheck when you look at the rest of the running back market. And yeah, so obviously you're giving him that kind of money. You are planning on getting him involved in that offense. So I do like that. The Xavier McKinney signing was huge. But again, you had 2 big signings and the rest of it was just kind of, let's figure out what we're doing. So yeah, I think B+ is good.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. I didn't say a grade, but B+.
Yeah. Minnesota Vikings. I mean, look, I don't know how you give him a great grade. You bring in Sam Darnold. That's nice, but you do let Kirk Cousins walked. Andrew Van Ginkel's kind of a sneaky pickup. I like the revenge stuff with Aaron Jones. Jonathan Grenard, as we mentioned last week, it feels like kind of like you lose to Neil Hunter and then you get Grenard. I don't know. It feels like the Texans are the winners in that swap, right? So I will say C- for the Vikings.
Yep. I'll give you a C- as well, because this team got severely worse over the course of free agency. I mean, it's so easy to say because just the stark difference in quarterback with going from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold, but like it doesn't really feel like you should be super confident in what they were able to do in free agency. Now we're taking the snapshot after free agency. If they go up into the top 5 in the NFL draft and find their quarterback, then okay, fine. It's a different conversation. But as of right now, Sam Darnold's their starting quarterback in week 1, and that makes them infinitely worse. It has ripple effects that could affect Justin Jefferson and his willingness to stay in Minnesota. And I'm with you, Brinson. I do like the Aaron Jones signing for just kind of the drama. But the Grenard one, it's a guy that had his career year in Houston last year, a defensive-minded head coach that we talked about, Breach, D'Amico Ryans, was willing to let him go. And you lose Daniil Hunter in the process. And I think I asked you guys last week, if you just made that trade, you would say the Vikings were losers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a touch better. I don't know why, though. I'm going to give him a C. Maybe I should move down to a C-. But for me, this is simple. They lost their best offensive player, Kirk Cousins. They lost their best defensive player, Daniil Hunter, and they didn't replace either of those two with better players. And that's it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And they also signed a kicker who's never kicked in an NFL regular season game. They're going to let Greg Joseph walk. It's looking like. I don't know what the Vikings are doing. So C.
Yeah. Quickly on the Bears, we talked about them at length with both the field stuff and the Keenan Allen trade. I'm going to give the Bears a. God, see, I would give such a higher grade if they just got anything more for Justin Fields. So I'll say I was teetering on like C+ or B-. I'll say C+ just because I'll say B- because I think the Keenan Allen thing helps you a ton. He's a great pairing with DJ Moore, but then like you just giving a 6th-round pick for Justin Fields is just terrible. I'm gonna look at it as sort of like they basically swapped Justin Fields for Keenan Allen and gave up a little draft capital to do it. So like I think that's a much better deal than thinking about it individually.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I would say, I'm a little bit higher. I would probably give him a B. I'm trying not to be a prisoner of the Justin Fields situation.
Yeah.
We know Caleb Williams is coming. It's not like Minnesota where they're kind of sitting out in the abyss and we don't know exactly what's going to happen at quarterback. We know exactly what they're going to do at the NFL draft and bringing Caleb Williams number 1 overall. I love the Keenan Allen pickup. I love the Kevin Byard pickup. DeAndre Swift was a little bit interesting. I don't know if he's the best back to make your bell cow out of that backfield, out of all of these running backs that were available. I don't know if he was the one to specifically target.
And they were first on him. They got him like before. Yeah.
They were doing it day one, right. Almost felt like in the same breath as the Packers were getting Josh Jacobs, they were going after DeAndre Swift. So I don't know if I necessarily love that, but I definitely give them a B here. I think overall, I like what they've done.
I'll split the difference, B-. I agree with the Keenan Allen trade is really what put me over the top. You get him for a 4th-round pick. That's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Gerald Everett at tight end. You're giving, and DeAndre Swift, obviously, you're giving your new quarterback, probably Caleb Williams, some weapons to work with. And that's what you have to do to make life easier for the rookie. And you mentioned Kevin Byard solid. And the reason I love that is because you got him for $7.5 million a year. That's a pretty solid price for a player of that caliber. So I'll give the Bears a B-.
Deion Sanders wouldn't have paid him that much. Don't worry. Deion told him, "You stay being a fan. I'll stay being a man." He's like, "I'm an all-pro safety, dude. What's your problem?"